Can the Badgers hang with the Wolverines? We have an insider coming on to break down all things Michigan football. Today's Locked On Badgers. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for being here, being part of this community. I really do appreciate it so much. A lot of things you could do with time. For you to spend a little bit here is absolutely amazing. Today's episode, we are talking all things Michigan, stopping that potent run game. Can the Badgers score? We have a Michigan expert coming on. Today's episode brought to you by Mazda. Like every player, Mazda sweats every single detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. Excited to welcome in Andrew Bailey right over at Maize n Brew, co-host of the Out of the Blue podcast, part of the Block M Podcast Network. I almost want to start here, man. Big game coming up. We're going to get into Michigan. Really grateful for the time. We had a couple questions come in. I want to start here from Tori. Do Michigan fans even look at this game as a challenge, or are we now like Purdue to you?
Oh man, we're starting in some dark places. Absolutely, they're not Purdue. Like, it's not viewed in that light yet. It's still Wisconsin. It's still a team, if you look back the last 2 years, played Oregon tough at home late last season, played Ohio State really tough at home 2 years ago. So this is a team that's still capable of getting up for the game. And maybe it's just the Wisconsin packaging. Having that on there is going to make this game feel maybe more challenging than it is in actuality.
What do you expect the environment to be this week? Obviously, Michigan coming off a bye, 3-1, had the one road loss to Oklahoma, but it is an early kick. It is a team that, even though it does still, I agree with you, by the way, Wisconsin, you don't lose all of your history and prestige with 2 bad years. But it is a team that's down. What do you expect the environment to be like this weekend?
They're doing a great job of marketing it as a Maize Out and it's homecoming. I'll actually be in attendance this weekend. So I think it's going to be good. I mean, I think you're going to have 107, 108,000 strong, maybe not the most raucous, but like, call me old. I love a noon kick, like leaves you the rest of the day and everything else. So I think it's going to be a solid atmosphere.
Let's start breaking this down. So Michigan coming in with the number 1 yards per carry rushing offense in the Big Ten. You have a multi-headed monster with the freshman quarterback Underwood. Hayes has been incredible. Marshall is there as well. What is the key to this Wolverines rushing offense, and what has made it so good this year?
So offensive coordinator Chip Lindsey has done a great job of marrying his scheme and incorporating outside zone with Sharon Moore's kind of smash gap mentality and what they've done in the past, running duo, pin and pulls, and play encounters, of course, plays like that. But the outside zone has been just a revelation for this team. And you saw it against Nebraska. It sprung 2 big touchdowns, one to the left with Justice Haynes, one to the right with Jordan Marshall. And just having that variety to the run menu has made this offense less predictable and added more explosiveness to the overall unit.
Talk to us a little bit about Underwood as a runner. I'm going to get into it as a quarterback and a thrower, the freshman quarterback, number 1 recruit in the country, huge frame, tons of talent. As a runner, how would you describe him? Maybe is he a Cam Newton? Is he a little faster than that? What do you think?
He's a little faster than Cam Newton. I don't want to – it's hard to put a name on it right now. He's very similar to Vince Young, where it's like the legs are like long, so it looks like he's going slower than he is, and then suddenly he's 30 yards down the field. Obviously, he's not that polished yet, but that's where all the comps were when he came out of high school. He is explosive. He is elusive. He doesn't read some zone reads as well as he would at this point, but the design runs are slowly starting to implement, whether that be draw or powers. He's really excelled out, and when he gets out in open field, he can be difficult to tackle. I just wish he wouldn't take so many hits.
Yeah, all young quarterbacks deal with that. It seems like all young quarterbacks have to learn to slide, to get out of bounds, to preserve the health. What about this Wolverines offensive line? This was a spot that I think there were some question marks maybe coming into the year. What does that line look like 4 weeks in?
I would say there's still some question marks. So the unit's already been battling injuries at both guard spots. Giovanni El-Hadi got hurt. Starting left guard got hurt against Oklahoma. He's expected to return against Wisconsin. Nathan Afobe's been filling in for him there. He's done an okay job, but there is a noticeable drop-off, especially in pass protection. And at right guard, it was Brady Norton originally. Then he was banged up, and now Jake Guarnera took over, and he's not giving the job back. So that's kind of been an upgrade in that position. That's been nice. But at left tackle, there's still questions with Evan Link in terms of pass protection because I think he's a natural guard. So I think his ceiling is ultimately him kicking inside and spending the rest of his time there. So if you're looking for like a silver lining for like if you're going to attack this offensive line, you could have some success on that side of the line of scrimmage.
So I think the interesting battle here is Wisconsin coming in with the nation's #1 rushing defense. Really, really stout against Bama, Maryland. The teams haven't been able to run on them, and they made a lot of effort this offseason to upgrade the size and the depth at that position. And I think it's worked. I think it's a legitimately good rush defense. Let's say they are able, I don't think they're going to stop Michigan's rushing offense, but let's say they limit it. They make it a little more difficult. What does Michigan do? Do they just kind of stubbornly continue running until they break something out? Or is Underwood at this point good enough to win a game with his arm?
In the past, I think Michigan would be stubborn, and I think they would run the ball over and over again and try to get the most out of that. But I think with Chip Lindsey, what they would do is try to tire out that front. And I think they're going to use screens and swing passes, try to get those linebackers out in space, keep those defensive tackles running, and then incorporate tempo and then get into those gap schemes. That was something they never did in the past. So with Lindsey, that's been a nice way to implement that and just kind of change it up. So like using like a swing pass as like a run control. So more or less like instead of like a pass. And to your second point, I think Underwood, I think he can get the job done, but I don't think the receivers can. That's the issue. Michigan's receivers have been a big letdown this season, had 4 drops against Nebraska, including 1 in the end zone. So that's where that kind of comes back to reality. And you don't want to put that impetus on such an unproven unit.
Why is it that Michigan, and this is me from the outside looking in, so please tell me if I'm wrong. Why is it that Michigan, it seems like, has struggled developing better receivers or a deeper receiver core over the last several years?
They're coming. They have 2 true freshmen on the roster. They're very excited about. Highly touted Andrew Marsh, 6'5", Jamar Browder. And then next year they have a duo coming in as well. I believe it's Zion Robinson and Travis Johnson are both very, very talented pass catchers. But tremendous question, man. I really don't get it. I mean, Michigan hasn't had a 1,000-yard receiver since 2013 or 12 when it was Jeremy Gallen. He had 1,300 yards. So it's just one of those, like, I don't know, weird bugaboos. Like Michigan they can always run the ball, but hell, they haven't developed a receiver after having such a good receiver run through the 90s and early 2000s.
Would love to get under the hood a little bit here with you, X's and O's. So the Badgers have had quarterback struggles as well. I think Daniel O'Neal is going to be the guy this week for Michigan, younger quarterback. They're going to really probably take half the field away from him, read these 2 things and run. Have there been some guardrails put on Underwood? Like, we're going to have you 1 read and then run, 2 reads and then run one side of the field? Or have some of those guardrails come off? Have you seen the kind of the evolution of him as a thrower?
So against Oklahoma, the offense was certainly protecting him. He was struggling to read RPOs correctly, so they took away any full field reads, made it very simple because you're going against a Brent Venables defense. You're getting split field coverage. You're getting man-to-man on one side. You're getting disguise zone on the other. He wasn't seeing it. He wasn't seeing it all night. He was struggling to just read basic defenders, so they really limited his menu. Against Central Michigan, they started expanding that, mainly his running menu and giving him more options play to play. However, he's still only running about 7 to 10 true passing concepts, just like an elementary like volume, but he's running them at a master's level. That's what they're doing right now. And I think they're going to slowly expand that slowly and add a few more concepts week in and week out and not overload him.
Yeah, and the Badgers' pass defense this year, we talked about the rush defense. The pass defense has been the polar opposite. It's been not very good in really any week. Alabama carved them up, but Maryland had success. Middle Tennessee State had success. You talked about those receivers. Let's shift maybe to running backs, tight ends. I know tight end is in a little better spot for Michigan. Are those spots where maybe they're going to try to attack Wisconsin for the passing game?
Tight end 100%. Marlon Klein was a featured weapon week 1 against New Mexico, was banged up against Oklahoma and missed that game. And that was a huge detriment to the offense in terms of blocking and what he brings as a pass catcher. That's Underwood's. He has the most chemistry with Marlon Klein, likes to use him in space. Same thing with Hogan Hansen, who's been in 1 week, out the next week. If they have both those guys going, it's going to do wonders, especially just to get those talented Wisconsin linebackers a little bit further away from the line of scrimmage and not playing so downhill. So I think that's where you're going to see them try to exploit some space and help open up that passing game, especially as the receivers, as I mentioned, have been kind of a letdown.
Last question here. Anybody else on offense Badger fans should look for? We talked quarterback, running back, some of the receivers. Anybody else that you think Badger fans should key on this weekend?
I think they should keep an eye out for wide receiver Kendrick Bell. So I've been really down on this unit, but Kendrick Bell has been pretty much injured all season, and he's finally got healthy last week against Nebraska. He was featured a little bit. He was used on the hands team late in the game, and the wide receiver room needs hands right now. So they're going to try to get him in this game. I think you're going to try to see him used in a multitude of different ways, whether it be a down the field shot or something on. Just keep an eye out for him. It's Ronnie Bell's little brother.
I wondered that Ronnie Bell ended up going to, he went to the Niners for a while, right?
Went to the Niners with the Lions now.
Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting connection there. All right, we're going to take one quick second for friends of the show. Come back with Andrew. We're going to continue talking about this matchup and that Michigan front seven, which I think is going to give Wisconsin a ton of problems this weekend in Ann Arbor. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. First, a quick second for our friends of the show over at FanDuel. FanDuel is our incredible sponsor for all things sportsbook, the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. Major League Baseball, playoffs are going on. Basketball's coming up. College football, pro football are all here. Listen, if you want to get in on the action in Ann Arbor, Michigan's 16.5-point favorites. If you believe that Wisconsin Badger defense can go in there and maybe slow down the running game, might be a spot where you're interested in there in Ann Arbor this weekend. Right now, new customers, $5 bet gets you $300 in bonus bets to use across the app if you win. If you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app today by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Today's episode also brought to you by our great friends over at Square. Listen, whether you're in Ann Arbor, whether you're in Madison, wherever you are, there's those little spots that make your neighborhood incredible. Whether it's a coffee shop, the bakery, whatever it is, every neighborhood has those incredible spots, and those spots run on Square. Right now, go to the neighborhood local joints. Visit square.com/go/lockedoncollege. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. Go to square.com/go/lockedoncollege to learn more and go visit your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be glad you did. All right, let's jump back into this with Andrew. Definitely want to give you an opportunity, man. Where can people find, especially leading up to this week, all your coverage so you can get that Michigan perspective?
You can find all my written content on maizenbrew.com. I had a piece this week looking about how Chip Lindsey reinserted explosiveness to Michigan's run game, looking at some of the big runs throughout the season. And you can find our podcast on all platforms on the Block M Podcast Network. Come out either late Monday night, early Tuesday morning, and then every Thursday we go live on YouTube, have an episode released the next day as well for a full team preview. And that is the Out of the Blue podcast specifically.
Dude, love it. And encourage everyone to go check that out, get that other team's perspective heading into this weekend. Let's flip it. Let's talk Wisconsin offense against Michigan defense. Man, that front seven, that defensive line, those edge defenders for Michigan. How does Wisconsin move let's game plan this. Let's say I give you a team with a bad offensive line, a backup quarterback, limited explosives. How do you move the ball against Michigan?
I think you got to have quick decisions. And I think RPOs would be essential. So Michigan's linebackers and safeties, that depth area has been very exploitable for opposition, just to like dink and dunk, especially with levels concepts. So I'm running RPOs to the death, just over and over again, trying to get anything moving. And then if you're going to run the football against Michigan, the best way to do it is like +1 runs with the quarterback in design settings, such as gap schemes, counters, anything like that. John Mateer had great success on the ground against Michigan. I don't know if Danny O'Neal is quite the runner that John Mateer was, but Oklahoma could not run the ball with the running backs in that game, but found success that way. And I think if you could do that, not beat yourself, then you're going to find yourself in a tight game.
Well, you just mentioned there, not beat yourself. Michigan is near the top of the Big Ten this year in turnover margin. Wisconsin is near the bottom. So Danny O'Neal, undersized quarterback, he is a pretty mobile kid. Much like you mentioned with Underwood, he takes far too many shots, but he's unfortunately he's 6 foot and 180 pounds. He's not Underwood size, so that's even worse. I'm really intrigued, man, by a lot of people. I think the national narrative was, look at all those pieces Michigan lost in the front seven, the secondary. This feels like it's been reloaded. Am I reading? Is that just too simplistic?
It's very similar. So, like, if you remember Michigan in 2021, in that next draft, they lost Aiden Hutchinson, they lost Dax Hill, they lost Josh Ross, they lost Chris Hinton, they lost David Ojabo, all these pieces. But then the next year, the defense was better in every statistical category, despite having edge rushers being Mike Morris, Jalen Harrell, just players that weren't on that level. And they did so in waves. And that's what this Michigan defense is doing this year as well. It's the depth. Like, so they don't have the high-end talent across all the positions. Now, I'm not going to disparage Jay Sean Barham by any means. I think he has a very high end, but like it's mostly depth. So it's like coming at you. It's 4 sets of edge rushers. It's 3 sets of defensive tackles. It's a linebacker room that's 5-6 deep at times. And the fact that they've been able to incorporate so many freshmen already, it just feels like it's nonstop coming at opponents.
Let's talk about Barnum for a second, because you brought him up. He's somebody I took notes on. Feels like he's exploded onto the scene this year. There's talk he's probably a future first-round pick with those type of physical measurables. What is he like, and what makes him so difficult for opposing offenses?
His versatility, man. It was talked about in the offseason moving him to edge, and I felt like the defense, in fact, Wink Martindale was a little reluctant to do it full time, but with Michigan struggling to get a pass rush early this year with 4 rushers, they decided it was time to move him down there, and now it just gives him so much positional versatility and just scheme flexibility. So you could have he could still play linebacker but line up on the edge, or he could line up on the edge and be playing edge, or drop into linebacker. And he's just fast, he's physical, but the thing he's doing most of all this year is he's playing heady. He's very smart. Like, he understands the scheme. Last year was just kind of like he was playing with his hair on fire, 110 miles an hour, but didn't really have a plan. Now he has a rush plan. Now he's understanding coverage drops and just playing so much smarter. And that's just the development you're going to see from going from your third year to your final year.
And again, let's go under the hood here a little bit. What kind of defense do you expect to see Michigan play against Wisconsin? Is it crowd the box, play one-on-one on the edges, exotic blitz? You know, what would you expect for them to do schematically?
I think they're going to load the box. I think they understand, like, if Wisconsin's going to find a way in this game, like, it's going to be through trying to run the ball, short passes, keep things going. I think they're going to crowd up and press those corners. I think they're going to bring everybody down, and they're just going to try to make life hell for O'Neal behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, and it's so frustrating as a Badger fan, man. Not to derail this whole conversation.
No, you're good.
But, like, it's been every team's game plan for the last 20 years against Wisconsin, load the box. And we just have not been able to, like my question to you with the receivers, Wisconsin has not been able to figure out the quarterback counterpunch to that outside of 1 year of Russell Wilson, 1 year of Scott Tolzien. It's just been frustrating, man. And I think you're right. I think you load the box, and I don't know if Wisconsin's going to be able to move the ball against Michigan. Is there a spot, you mentioned RPOs, maybe some quick decisions. Is there a spot maybe you look in the secondary? Is there a spot where potentially a team with a passing game could exploit a little bit more?
100%. Double moves for sure. Jair Hill, are one of our probably our best pure corner, bites on double moves all the time. So if you can get one there, that's going to be open. Again, those crossing patterns, especially if you're going to play at levels, those can open up. If you can catch Michigan in a blitz, there's going to be some opportunities as well there, because Wink Martindale will dial them up. And if one person is off just by a step, everything can fall apart. So I think those are where you're going to find it. We just got to be quick. The longer you sit back there, the more time it gives Barham and Derek more time to get into the pocket.
I had a couple other questions here I wanted to get to, and then we'll get into our game predictions. I thought this one was good from Northwoods. In 5 years, is Sharon Moore the head coach at Michigan?
I believe so, especially with this Underwood development trajectory. All Michigan fans' eyes right now are set on 2027, to be honest, because Underwood's a junior, and you look at the recruiting class with the number one running back coming in next year. Jordan Marshall could potentially be a senior. This offensive line could be loaded with 4 and 5 stars by then too. So all eyes are set then, and I believe Moore has what it takes. I believe he has like a 10-1 record in one-score games as well. So I think as the talent comes there, he has that coaching acumen. If he can replenish whenever Michigan inevitably does lose Wink Martindale, I think he'll be in a good position.
What's the biggest concern with him if you were to have one?
Inconsistency, I think, at times. Sometimes the slow starts to begin the year. We saw it last season. There was a lot of up and downs. I think loyalty is also can be an issue to a fault. Like, you have that escalating commitment to staff members, to players on this team. Like, I really thought there could have been an upgrade on the interior offensive line through the portal. But, you get attached to a story. You believe in a guy that's like, it's not always a fairy tale like that. And same thing with staff. Like last year, offensive coordinator Kirk Campbell, couldn't coach his way out of a paper bag, but was calling plays deep into the season. And as soon as those were taken away from him against Northwestern, Michigan puts up 50 points. And it's like, did you wait too long to do that? Should you have hit it faster? So I think those would be the biggest reasons.
That's interesting, because that's a lot of, first of all, I think Harbaugh is one of the most loyal people from a coaching standpoint that you ever see. So I think Moore probably got some of that from Harbaugh, I would assume.
That's why I think Harbaugh got in trouble in 2020, to be honest. It was that commitment.
And it's also, I was going to say, that's kind of what got Paul Christ in trouble at Wisconsin. It was there were certain hires and staff moves that were made to former players, former coaches at Wisconsin that, quite frankly, didn't make a ton of sense. And I think that loyalty, while at times builds culture, it can also have, like, to your point, a detrimental effect on the staff itself.
It's hard to find that line. It takes like a good manager of people, and Moore's still getting that experience underneath his belt. Only been a full-time coach for 1 year, and I think he's slowly starting to grow in that.
All right, we're going to take one more quick break, come back with the great Andrew Bailey, talk about will Michigan maybe allow Wisconsin to hang around a little bit? That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. First, a quick second for our friends of the show. Quick second, as always, to say thank you for tuning in to Locked On Badgers. Today's episode brought to you by our great friends over at Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Maybe you're taking a road trip from Madison to Ann Arbor this weekend. You're going to go check out the game. I know some Badger fans are going up there. They're excited to check it out. Maybe you want to get there in a little bit more style. You want to get there with expert craftsmanship, with top safety ratings. Whatever it is, Mazda has got you covered. Again, for those people who want to do more than just move, you want to get there with something extra. Mazda's here for you. Like every single player, Mazda sweats every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Today's episode also brought to you by our great friends over at Gametime. Again, talking about that great environment in Ann Arbor. If you want to get tickets, if you want to find a spot to go watch the Badgers, maybe trip the upset, It would be incredible if they did and you were there. You'd get those tickets on Game Time, the biggest selection, the best prices, the largest inventory, any type of sporting event. You can find those tickets on Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying college tickets today with Game Time. Download Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your purchase. Terms to apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Let's come back on this, finish off. Really appreciate the time from Andrew. I think so. The Badgers have had slow starts this entire year. In fact, that's been kind of a fickle thing for the last 3 years. I think the only way they stay in this game, coming off an embarrassing game against Maryland, you have the bye week to hopefully regroup, maybe get a little healthier. They've had injuries on the offensive line at quarterback. Michigan needs to start slow. Michigan almost needs to take Wisconsin a little lightly. Is this a team with a young quarterback, potentially reading some press clippings, maybe seeing what Wisconsin has done this year? Is it a team that may start slow?
It's certainly on the table. And I think this is a weird game wherever the team that scores first is really going to be in the driver's seat, because like even Wisconsin's offensive struggles, I mean, 4th nationally in time of possession and defensively a really good 3rd down defense. And those are 2 things you need to get ahead and stay ahead. That was the Harbaugh mantra, and Michigan likes to play that same way. I think the only thing working against Wisconsin, hoping for a Michigan slow start, though, is how good the Wisconsin run defense is. I think that's been all over the facilities all week. This is the best run defense in the country. They're the best. They do this. They do this. And I think having that challenge will help motivate the players to come out and prevent that slow start.
I think if you are trying, and I don't see Wisconsin, I certainly don't see Wisconsin pulling this upset, but I think if you script, in my opinion, a close game, I think it is Wisconsin stopping the run and forcing Underwood in 3rd and 7, 3rd and 9. Wisconsin has a pretty good pass rush. They have a couple edges that cause some issue. I know you mentioned that's potentially a spot you could get Michigan a little bit if you have some athleticism there. If you put Underwood repeatedly in 3rd and 7, 3rd and 9, is this game at halftime like 10-3?
It very well could be. I mean, Michigan's offensive line struggles to block movement. So especially if you're twisting and stunning and doing creative things, they have trouble passing those off at times. So that could cause some chaos up front, get Underwood uncomfortable, get him off his spot. I mentioned the receivers aren't that good, and that's how you get him in a tight game. Last week, 2 weeks ago, the game against Nebraska, Michigan should have won by 21, 24 points. So it's like Michigan is capable of beating themselves and putting them in holes as well. I mean, giving up a Hail Mary before halftime and things like that. So, I mean, there are a ton of places for Wisconsin to look to exploit at this one and at least make it competitive, because like, I mean, similar, I saw Wisconsin has not scored in the first half against Alabama or Maryland. So like just trying to keep this thing in the mud, trying to possess the ball, take it away, own the time of possession. And then, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked to see a 10-10, 13-13 game at halftime in certain instances.
I think you nailed it with time of possession too. It's mucking the game up. It's making it a little ugly. It's sitting on the ball for lack of a better. It's playing boring football, which Wisconsin and Michigan has done it for a lot of their history very successfully, by the way. That's not always a bad thing.
No.
I think they have to do it. Big P asks, and I think we've talked about this a little bit, but if there's any other spot where has Michigan struggled or continue to struggle that Wisconsin can exploit, anything else you can think of just from a Wisconsin standpoint where you might have some more optimism?
So Michigan has struggled to wrap up sacks, especially off blitzes coming from the boundary with safety, sometimes with corners as well. So that's an area, if you can get them out in space, try to make them tackle. Offensively, again, if you're mixed coverages in the back end, if you could run man-to-man on one side, zone on the other, just give them some different looks, confuse them, get them off the same page, and keep them out of rhythm. Like, can't let those running backs get going. If those running backs get going, it's really tough to slow down Michigan. They've hit a big run over 50 yards, I believe, in every game this season. So like trying to take away that big play, finish those being gap sound, and then again, put all of it on Underwood, put it on a freshman quarterback to make those reads, because as talented as he is, he's still 18.
Yeah, I think that's well said. What is the most underrated part of this Michigan team? Do you think that people aren't talking about enough?
Oh, I should have mentioned as well, if you want to exploit something, our special team sucks outside of kicker Tom Savannah.
Let's go.
So like if you want to look for something, there's another area. Underrated, I would say the linebackers. The linebackers on this team are deep and very experienced. Like Cole Sullivan, he's technically a backup linebacker, but has the co-lead in interceptions. He's built like a white Jayshon Barham, and I think he's going to move to edge next season and fill a similar role. They're deep, they're fast. Sometimes they can struggle in coverage, but they do so much in the run game to help this front out. I think that's why you see Michigan able to build such a consistent run wall.
Last question here. Well, I might ask you for a game prediction too if you do those. Not everybody does.
Oh yeah.
I don't mind either. I don't always know what the big deal is. I get it if you're calling the game, but 99.9% of us aren't doing that.
No,
it's
I'm
okay
not playing on Saturday. I have no impact on the game.
Dude, 100%. You and I are like Legos in this. We stick together. Who are the 3 best college players on the Michigan Wolverines team this year? So I think pro and college are different. Not who's going to be drafted the highest. Who are the 3 best players on this team?
Jayshon Barham, Justice Haynes, and if he can get fully healthy, it'll be Rod Moore in the secondary. But right now, it's not Rod Moore. I mean, 2 weeks ago was his first game back from injury, first game in 18 months. But he'd been a starter since he was a freshman here. He had the game-winning interception against Ohio State in 2023, where he infamously called game. But without him, I would say the 3rd best player is probably the fellow edge, Derek Moore. So you have the 2 edges and the star running back.
Perfect. That sounds terrible for us.
And those those 2 edges played in high school together too. That high school team had those 2 edges, had Elijah Surratt, the receiver from Indiana, and Blake Corum on it.
That's insane. That's absolutely
that's a high school team.
Let me ask you this, because there are a couple of Badger targets that we were after pretty heavily that are on Michigan's Wolverine. Nichols, the defensive lineman, how has he been?
Good. He's been good rotationally. He struggled in run defense a little bit, where they've been able to just bring him in obvious pass situations. He's been pretty explosive.
Yeah, I liked his film a lot coming out of high school, man. I think we finished 2nd in that recruitment to you guys.
So it's always the ones you remember, the ones you were so. I mean, Najee Harris had a dorm room at Michigan when admissions declined him.
Did you find out who in admissions and go and talk to that person?
There's so many people in Michigan's admissions department where there's just issues with that. I mean, there's so many close ones. Like that's one that always just it hurts too much. It was so close.
So on that one particular point, Wisconsin and Michigan are very similar. Wisconsin has also lost battles simply because you couldn't get through somebody in admissions. And I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing. This is not that. But then he would go to another Big Ten school, and you're like, that guy's really good at that school. Again, not going to throw out names or players or teams, but yeah, Wisconsin has been there in that same boat. Let's go game prediction. How do you think this game will unfold? What's the final score? What do you think happens Saturday?
So I think outside of Michigan's, I mean, they've been very good in scripted drives this year. So I think outside of their scripted, it could be a little slow in the first half. I do think Wisconsin's going to struggle to move the football, especially with a quarterback with those edges just firing off there. I'm sure Wink's going to bring a lot of exotic blitzes, stuff he hasn't seen, and try to protect the underneath and just leave his corners on islands. Like, okay, if you can beat us across the field deep, so be it, but we'll trust our guy against yours. I do think Michigan will be able to pull away in this one, probably late in the second quarter, open up to like a 17-3 halftime deficit. I think Michigan will pull away in the second half and finish 38-10. I want to be respectful because it's Wisconsin. I understand what they can do. And every game's a kitchen sink game for Wisconsin as well. So like Fickle is coaching for his job week to week. They're throwing everything they can out this. I think it could be a battle. It wouldn't surprise me. I just think it'll be too much in this instance. Like if this were in Madison, I could very much see 24-13, 24-17 coming down to the last few possessions. But being at the big house, coming off a bye week where Sharon Moore has been successful at Michigan, 38-10.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I think I didn't make my official prediction yet, but I think it's going to be something like 34-10, 30-10. I just don't know how Wisconsin moves the ball. I actually think there's a scenario where that first half is pretty close because they gum up Michigan's running game. But eventually, Michigan's going to force a turnover, some type of pick, fumble, sack. They're going to get great field position. And they're just going to exploit those mistakes that I think they can force that I don't think the Badgers can necessarily force on Michigan's offense. So it could feel close for a half. I do think Michigan's just way too much at home, and that front seven is terrifying against our offensive line.
Those tackles are going to have a tough time. They're going to have to chip, bring extra help in there. But I think you hit the nail on the head. I think turnovers will ultimately be the difference in this one. And Wisconsin has just turned the ball over too much and not taken enough away this season.
Yeah, unfortunately, I agree. He is Andrew Bailey. Please go check out his work, Maize and Brew. Go check him out on Twitter, get all that perspective. Andrew, man, thank you. Appreciate it. Have fun this weekend if you're there. For sure, you said you're going to be.
Yes, sir. I'll be there, and I appreciate you having me, man.
Yeah, for sure. We'll do it again when basketball starts up.
Absolutely.
For everyone tuning in on Wisconsin, thank you for doing this. Go check out Andrew's work, and we will definitely talk tomorrow.